Yahweh Ayash Malach Chama Yahweh Shamwa. Giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rucha Kudash. Double honor to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone that rule well, laboring in word and doctrine. Shalom in peace. May that be into the elect of the nation of Israel. Right, that's the Hebrew. Right, Yahweh Ayash Malach Chama Yahweh Shamwa. Right, meaning what? In the English, Exodus chapter 15 and verse 3, that is, in the Hebrew there. Now in the English, the Lord Yahweh is a man of war, Ayash Malachma, sorry, Yahweh Shamwa, right? Yahweh is his name. And let's not forget this, you know? The Lord is a man of war. We're in a time of, it's heating up. We're there. You know, every day we get closer to that day which is described as a dreadful day, a terrible day. Right? It's not all, as we know, preaching to the choir, as I say, or singing to the choir, preaching to the converted. It's not a day of candy floss, candy canes, lollipops, teddy bears, you know, and all those things. Even the teddy bear, the way the E through cartoons and media portrays a bear, you know, it's a small thing, but, you know, the point is made. It portrays a teddy bear, you know, a cute, cuddly, fluffy thing. You see a bear, it'll fuck you up, right? A bear will fuck you up if it needs to, you know, if it feels threatened or if it's that way inclined. You know, a bear will fuck you up. So the same way, you know, if he does that to a, you know, a creation we can see, you know, we have that in us. Imagine what he does to the unseen. You know, how he portrays the unseen, or even the seen, right? Yahweh Shai, HaMashiach, right? The Messiah, the one the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, which is seen as some soft, effeminate, fairy tale character for most people. However, we know him to be very real, you know, and we know that he also, as it's written, I am my Father of one. He is of that same mindset. He is a man of war, right? You don't play. Now there's a time to all things, there's a season, a time to every purpose under the heaven, as it's written in Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. So there was a time for Yahweh Shai to come and be that lamb to the slaughter. But when he's coming back, you know, he's coming to conquer as that lion, right? As the Rastaman say about their idol, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, where you're going to find out about Yahweh Shai, who is the true conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, right? He is HaMashiach. He's the anointed for a reason. So all that rambling to say, you know, in this lesson, let's not forget that the Lord is a man of war, right? Things that play out on the earth, the way that this society is set up, the morality, the immorality rather, the moral compass, the moral code of this society is contrary to that of the Heavenly Father Yahweh, right? Things that are seen as light, you know, things to joke about, not too serious, the Heavenly Father sees as heavy, right? Grave, deadly serious, you know, quite literally. And then there's things in this society that they say, oh, that's too harsh, that's too strict. Well, to the Heavenly Father, that's judgment, you know, or that's just life. That's life and death, right? We have to unplug, you know, as people say, we have to unplug from the, you know, the great grid, the grid of this world, right? Because our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, has a different, vastly different, right? Vastly disparate moral compass, moral code, you know, what's right, what's wrong, sense of morality. And guess what? The Lord is sending his son, his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, to make war, right? It's written, and in righteousness doth he make war. Right, so there's righteous ways to war, you know? If someone comes in, you know, and rushes in your house, takes everything, and then starts killing off all your family, you know, are you just gonna sit there? Probably not. You know, most people would say, by the morality of this world, that would be a righteous way to make war. You know? Most people have a line. It's different to every man, as it's written. You know, the way of man is right in his own eyes. You know, so quote unquote, each to their own. Everyone's gonna have their own limit. But there's gonna be a point where they say, You know, that's a righteous way to make war. While we are remaining in a spiritual zone, you know, we remain non-physical, non-confrontational physically. When it comes to the gospel, you know, spiritually, there's many confrontations. That is the fight, that is the battle. You know, but the Messiah, when he's sent of the Father, will make actual war, right? Physical, literal war. And it's going to be metaphysical in terms of spiritual power, where it will manifest in the physical plane, right? That's not for us to go ahead and try to bring about ourselves. We're to remain peaceful, we're to remain spiritual. But the point is, when it's all said and done, you know, and when the Heavenly Father sends that command for the Son, in righteousness doth he make war. You know, it talks about he's sending for many fishers, and in the time, when the time's right, he will send for many hunters, right? Jeremiah 16:16. And it's going to be the angels that are going to be doing the majority of that hunting, right? So how you have little, you know, fat, pale babies in the church system, in the images, how they're portrayed and depicted. Well, in reality, that's again something very far from the actual truth or the actual facts of the matter, which would be, you know, deadly beings, right? Beings that have a great potential to cause havoc, that have a potential to cause destruction, and if given the command from the Heavenly Father, they absolutely would. Sorry, they absolutely will, when that comes forth. Yeah, if given they would, and when given they will. Say it like that. So let's not forget the Heavenly Father is a man of war, right? Yahweh is his name. That's the same name that was magnified during ancient Egypt, right? The Pesach season, we always bring out that story, or you know, that history, that account. But really, we can remember this year round. Why? Because Yahweh Shai is our Pesach. Okay, and it's written, the Lord shall no longer be. It's no longer going to be said, this is the Lord, right? This is Yahweh that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But it's rather going to be said, this is the Lord Yahweh, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of the north and all the lands whither they were scattered. You know, meaning what? Israel is going to be scattered everywhere. And Israel, the elect of Israel, let me say, is going to get redeemed from everywhere. You know, read that. I believe it's Jeremiah 23, verse 6 and 7, I want to say. And Jeremiah verses 16. Sorry, chapter 16. Verses around 14 and 15 on down, you'll read that. Right, so there's going to be a new Pesach. Why? Because the Lord is going to make war. It's written in the book of Esdras. You know, he would smite Egypt with plagues as before, so expect them. Right? We're not to be worried and concerned with all that. You know, and if he comes up with a secret way, you know, take this MOTB and it will do this, this and that. When that is pushed forth, if that is pushed forth, you don't take it. And when it is pushed forth, you do not take it. Right, the Lord is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. And the Lord being a man of war, if we remain spiritual and we're of the elect, right, that's the requirements. That's the mission requirements. But you will be looked after if you are of the elect, right, by the chief, you know, the author of creation, right, it was made through Yahweh Shai, but it's attributed unto the Heavenly Father because he sent forth that decree, he sent forth that order, right? But the Lord is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. So let's not forget, you know, and the Lord will plead our cause if we are of the elect and if we remain faithful until the end. Yahweh Ayash Malach Chama Yahweh Shamwa Shalawah.